good blend of teachers over the years that have taught me really incredible things that have been very helpful because you're right. It's not all like rainbows and butterflies when we're doing this work. Sometimes you get into some really deep, dark corners of people's lives and what they're going through. And so I always suggest if somebody's going through a big transformation of sorts, I always recommend therapy. I think if you can find a great therapist, that's great. And what if you blended that with someone that does spiritual work, is some kind of spiritual practitioner that you trust? And
a lot of what we experience in this lifetime is not from this lifetime. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And, they're in therapy trying to fix what's going on in this lifetime. But, hey, you're bringing in experiences and maybe the baggage from a prior lifetime. And people who can help you do that, I find, are extremely valuable to have in your life. Welcome, everyone. Jacqueline Kuhn here with JacquelineKuhn.com, powered by angels, and the second episode of my Guided Together podcast. With me today is a woman who literally is responsible for me doing this because through her, I discovered my gifts, and that's Dalissa Hocking. We met in Las Vegas when she had a show at Binion's, and I was fortunate enough to be brought up on stage, and she helped me and others bend spoons with our mind, and this is the exact spoon. The story is not about bending the spoon. It's about that was the moment when I realized I was meant for more. And for that, I am eternally grateful to Dalissa. She'll introduce herself. She'll introduce herself a little later, but she's a fifth generation psychic medium. So, and honestly, probably one of the best mediums I have ever encountered in my life. So welcome.
thank you. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And I'm happy to be a part of your story, your journey of how you started your Powered by Angels and your website and everything you're doing these days. It's funny how sometimes the universe puts us in the pathway of someone, and maybe we don't recognize in that moment everything that it's going to become, but we have this sense that something has shifted. And just like you described with bending the spoon, that was a moment for you that felt bigger than maybe what you thought was going to happen that day when you woke up.
Absolutely. So I just thought I was at a conference in Vegas. We had literally no plans to the last minute to go to your show at Binion's. Total last minute thing. So the universe has a plan. We just need to go with it. So before we get too deep, I'm going to start just by opening up with a little blessing with Archangel Michael and Gabriel. And those of you who are watching us, feel free to do this along with. I'm just going to kind of close my eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. Reground myself. And I'm going to call in Archangel Michael. He is our divine protector. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for always being with us and protecting us from lower energies and the evil one. Protect Dalissa and I and all those who are watching this video. Keep us in your good graces and let your light shine upon us. And Archangel Gabriel, you are the Archangel for communication. Help us to be clear in what we want to communicate. Those watching, listen and learn and take what they need, leave what doesn't make sense, and help our message get to those who really need it. And so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful.
Yeah. So why don't you just kind of start us off by letting everybody know a little bit about your backstory? Because it's you have a different way to get to your destination as well.
Yeah, I was not what I thought I would be doing for a living as a psychic medium, sitting here with you today talking about spirituality and archangels. But in hindsight, I probably should not be that surprised. I grew up in a family that was very open spiritually. It's on my dad's side of the family. My grandmother, his mom, Eloise, she had the ability to see full body apparitions with her physical eyes walking through her house. She could tell you who they were, what clothes they were wearing as they appeared in the apparition. She would get a lot of downloads. She would say, Lisi, she called me Lisi. Lisi, do you want to hear about my ESP? Her extrasensory perception, her download, So as a kid growing up, I was like really interested in what my grandmother Eloise had to say, but also sometimes like really terrified about like the ghosts that she would see and where in the house they were, because she would usually stay up pretty late. And I've always kind of gone to bed early. So it would be the next morning, when I'm out in the living room and she's telling me what she saw the night before as everyone else was asleep. But it never scared her. There was even a neighbor that she had at one point that was haunting her house and was doing all kinds of weird things in her home. And that woman showed herself as, this is going to sound so strange, showed herself in my grandmother's home after she'd passed away as the devil. And my grandmother had a Ouija board. Like there was all kinds of stuff going on growing up. So she would often tell me about her grandmother, Belle, and I've got a picture of Belle behind me as well, my great grandmother. And Belle would see full body apparitions on the farm, and her husband would be out like working in the field, and he'd come in for dinner, and she would tell him who was working the field with him that day as a spirit. So I loved that I came from a family that was just kind of unique and different, and we talked about all the things that maybe other families don't talk about. So I was always very fond of those memories, but I didn't think that I was going to be seeing the same thing and doing the same thing and taking it to a whole new level that nobody in my family that I know of has gone to with it. So in 2015, I decided last minute to go on a trip from Fort Worth, Texas, up to LaGuardia Airport in New York and get a rental car and drive out into the middle of nowhere to go to a place called the Omega Institute. And they were doing a workshop on synchronicity, how everything in your life happens for a reason. And I go up there and have this incredible experience, really amazing people and teachers that were there. One that's actually getting ready to cross my path again all these years later. She'll be one of the speakers in my upcoming summer speaker series. And she was a teacher in that original group in 2015. So it's a full circle moment for me. But the real magic happened the last night of that trip. And I decided by a friend's nudging that I was going to go visit another friend, a mutual friend that we had in the area up in New York, who just so happened to have a second home in the middle of the woods near the Omega Institute. And I had met him in a project in Las Vegas. So it was really kind of remarkable that he had this home there. And so our mutual friend said, you guys need to get together. You need to catch up, So I go over to Peter's house the last night of my trip, literally hours before I'm going to get on a plane and fly back to Texas. And the retreat had just wrapped. I drive over to his house. It's evening time at that point. We're eating dinner or we have some TV on. And Peter gets an unexpected phone call. And it is his family calling to tell him that his Aunt Barbara, who he loved very much, had died unexpectedly that day when she had fallen down a flight of stairs. So, I obviously feel terrible for Peter, and it's pretty late at that point. I don't know any of Peter's family. I certainly didn't know Aunt Barbara, and that would soon change. So Peter goes up to his bedroom. I go off to the guest room. I just been meditating off and on for the last few days at the retreat. So I was really good and relaxed. And so I fell asleep really easily. But in the middle of sleeping that night in August of 2015, Aunt Barbara, who just died hours before, came through in my astral state, in my dream state, kind of like when we dream about a loved one that's maybe passed away, or a friend that we haven't thought of in a while comes and visits us in a dream, kind of like that. It was like I could just see like a close up of her face. Her mouth wasn't moving, but she said, "Please tell my nephew I'm okay. I made it to the other side." So the next morning I wake up and I'm coming out of the sleep fog, and it hits me like bricks. Oh my God, I saw Aunt Barbara. I talked to her. I have to tell Peter. So I go out into the kitchen. He's already awake. And I tell him the story. And he asks what she looked like. And I described her hair, her facial features. And he said, "That's her." Okay. So here's like this Pandora's box that gets opened. So I fly back to Texas. And a couple days later, I'm at lunch with a friend. And I go to reach for my phone to grab it to show her some photos from the trip. And I could see Aunt Barbara on my phone. It was a thumbnail. I could see like the little image. So I drop my phone. My eyes start filling with tears. And my poor friend Jenny, she's like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I said, "This is Aunt Barbara. This is exactly what she looked like." And Peter had snapped a photo of her from her service that day and had sent it to me. So that's how it all got started, is those events happening and then deciding, well, there's probably a whole heck of a lot more trying to come through that I have no idea about now that my awareness has been woken up.
Yeah, we all have a moment that is usually not of our own control. It's a moment you never know when it's going to come, that your gifts just say, "Hey, we want to break through." It's like a knock on the head that says, "Hey, you're meant for more. You need to use your gifts. You've got these incredible gifts. You need to use them for something." And that's what, when I talk to folks and I hear their stories, almost everyone, no one that I've known, I'm sure there are people out there, like say, "Oh, I'm going to go be a psychic today." Like that just doesn't happen. And it's not that easy. People think, "Oh, that's so fun and that's so cool." But it's not always that easy, because it is draining emotionally and physically, especially, when you do mediumship like you do. It takes a while to recuperate. And then our, opening with Archangel Michael and asking for protection, it's not all good. There's, lower energies out there. And if we don't protect ourselves from them, there's a lot to learn once you like open up your gifts. Now, I learned from you, which was a gift from God in my mind. Who did you learn from? Like, who taught you how to protect yourself and clear energy and all of those things?
I've always been a lifelong learner. I love going to classes. So some of the earlier classes that I did, I think it was in 2017, I went to Lee Harris's Energy Mastery in Southern California. And he doesn't do the same format, I don't think, anymore. But I was one of the lucky few in 2017 to be able to be a part of a somewhat smaller group where maybe 100 people in the room, that's small for him these days. But I learned a lot from him, and watching him move through a room and how he would work with energy. I also studied mediumship with John Holland. He teaches classes in Maine. So I flew out to Maine and took his mediumship class, and he had a co-teacher who's since passed away, but they would co-teach these classes together. I've taken Hollister Rand, who is a medium out of Southern California. I've taken her mediumship class. And I also like to blend in other types of classes. So, for example, going to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. I did that one some years ago, and that was where you walk over the hot coals and you can literally feel the like sizzling on your feet after you get over the hot coals, and you're like, "What the heck did I just do?" So I've had a good blend of teachers over the years that have taught me really incredible things that have been very helpful because you're right. It's not all like rainbows and butterflies when we're doing this work. Sometimes you get into some really deep, dark corners of people's lives and what they're going through. And I'm obviously no therapist, but I have had a lot of people over the years say that they're more comfortable talking to a psychic medium at times, and they feel like they can go deeper and find out the root of things a lot quicker. And so I always suggest if somebody's going through a big transformation of sorts, I always recommend therapy. I think if you can find a great therapist, that's great. And what if you blended that with someone that does spiritual work, as some kind of spiritual practitioner that you trust and you enjoy their work and the content that they bring to the world? I just think there's a lot of people that can learn a lot about themselves through that combination of therapy and some kind of spiritual modality.
I would agree because the therapy can do some very specific things, but the modality in the intuitive arts really goes deeper oftentimes. I mean, unless you have a therapist that can really get into some kind of hypnotism and past life experiences, a lot of what we experience in this lifetime is not from this lifetime. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And, they're in therapy trying to fix what's going on in this lifetime. But, hey, you're bringing in experiences and maybe the baggage from a prior lifetime. And people who can help you do that, I find, are extremely valuable to have in your life, because you just never, I mean, we've lived thousands and thousands of lifetimes, and you just don't know where things come up. I often tell this story about turtlenecks because it's kind of crazy. I have always worn things around my neck, always, always, always. Not scarves, because scarves have a knot, but turtlenecks or other things covering my neck, because I learned through past life regression that I was beheaded twice in my former lifetime. And I bring the protection of my neck into this lifetime. And so I was wearing turtlenecks when it wasn't fashionable. Like, it was the 70s. No one was wearing turtlenecks. And I would get mocked. But I'm like, nope, I got to wear my turtleneck. And I never knew where that came from until I did some past life work. And I'm like, oh my God, this totally makes sense.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I don't love that you were beheaded twice, but it is so fascinating to go down the rabbit hole of past lives and see which ones we've had and how they are a part of the lifetime that we have now. I agree. I think it can be a powerful tool because somebody may have a really challenging relationship. I remember I had a really hard relationship with a former boss. And no matter what I did, I felt like, gosh, I'm always like on their bad side. Like, I always feel like I'm getting in trouble. And I had a past life experience because I would go into hypnosis, and they were my mother in a past life. I'm like, as soon as I saw the information around that, I'm like, of course they were. Now it makes absolute sense why we have the relationship we have in this life. And we're carrying over some energy of, mother daughter of a past life that we're trying to somehow kind of fit into a work relationship this time. And it changed it metamorphosized that relationship from that point forward.
Yeah, it's that understanding where it comes from. And I think the intuitive gifts, I call it that instead of psychic arts because I like the word better, but some people call it psychic arts. The intuitive gifts that we all have, I truly believe we all have them, can help us understand ourselves and others that much better. There's a ton of there's quite a few intuitive gifts and modalities that people use. And I know that you help people to uncover them and discover them. For someone who is listening to this and like has never thinks they have good intuition, has never gone down that path, but would like to explore it, what are some of your recommendations for them to like start on that journey?
I think start small, and I don't think it requires a lot of extra tools or anything like that. There's two practices I normally give to people, especially my students that feel like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure if it's in me. And sometimes I get a little bit of pushback, but one is doing some kind of meditation. Now, you can pick whatever one you want to do, but find some quiet and stillness inside of yourself. I personally like guided meditations where I'm listening to someone's voice and they're walking me through some kind of guided imagery journey. I also really like binaural beats. And I found that the use of binaural beats will affect my brain waves in such a way that it makes channeling a lot easier. So if I know that I'm about to go into something with heavy channeling, I will listen to a binaural beats audio file with headphones on, and that will start adjusting my brain waves so that I can access the higher frequencies much easier. And the company that I usually go to for those is called sacredacoustics.com. I'm not affiliated with them, but they put out really great files, and they have a free one for their opt-in on their website that I still use all these years later. So that's a great tool for people to use. The other thing is some form of journaling. Now, somebody might hear that and go, I don't like to sit there and write things out. So you can do an audio transmission instead of writing it out if you really don't want to put pen to paper. So how it would look both ways is I like a practice called morning pages, which is from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And it's 3 blank pages every morning and a pen, no journaling prompt. And you write until all 3 pages are filled. And what I've seen that does is it really creates a lot of spaciousness within us, gets us out of our own way, starts to clear and remove the heavy things we've been carting around, which makes it easier for us to get our frequency higher, which is where all the intuition and psychic information lies. And so if you don't want to do the 3 blank pages, you could turn on like a voice recorder on your cell phone, for example, and just speak into it and speak into it maybe for 20 minutes or so and get it all out of you. And you can save them by date. And so if you ever need to go back and listen to them, you can. But those 2 practices I've seen moves the needle the fastest for anybody that wants to just feel more connected to the universe, connected to themselves, and to feel capable of bringing in intuitive nudges that are outside of their normal practical senses.
Yeah, I kind of do the audio thing because I walk my dog in the morning, weather permitting. And I don't listen to music or anything. I will things just start coming into my head because I live in an area where there's lots of trees and stuff. So I'm just walking and all of these things just start coming in and I just start recording because I'm not focused on anything. I have no electronics. I have nothing else disturbing me. And I'm of course grounded because I'm out in nature and just things come through. So I'll record them on my phone. But I love to write. But I just find that the time is kind of like best when I'm out with my dog because there's some kind of connection her and I have that I get some of my best ideas and then I have to go, this is like I'm getting messages. Oh no.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Yeah, I was just going to say, because we don't know exactly when the information is going to pop in. And so just to your point about walking your dog and maybe not having a pen and paper, but most of us carry a cell phone. So open up your cell phone and put the notes in there or do your audio recording, because we think, just like when we dream and we wake up and we think we're going to remember it and we don't, the same is true for psychic information or downloads that we're getting. We think we're going to remember it. Then an hour later, we're like, oh no, I forgot to write it down. I can't remember what it was that came through on the walk. So try to do it in the moment, even if it means just putting it in your phone somewhere.
and then honor it. I have also learned through the last couple of years I've been doing this, that whatever came through, no matter how crazy it sounds, was meant to come through. Do not alter it. Do not change it. You just have to honor it, because that's what the message is. And you might not understand it. And I think that's the other thing I've learned, is that oftentimes the messages almost feel coded. It's not like English language and they're talking to you. It comes in, for me, lots of music. I get tons of messages in music, just all kinds, but they come in symbolisms and maybe a couple of words that you're like, huh? What does that mean? Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, I'll hear words and phrases that feel like they pass by my ear. So I typically get very direct words. And when the imagery comes in, I see it like a daydream. Whereas I was sharing, my grandmother and her grandmother would see it like with their physical eyes. Mine looks like it kind of just plays out in front of me in like a dream state. And usually the symbolism is really present in the imagery. So imagery is usually not specific in detail around the exact thing. There's been some instances where it has been exact. For example, I remember years ago doing a session for a woman, and a very specific cartoon character popped in. And so a lot of the time it would be, okay, there's something about cartoons or illustrations, like you kind of make it a little bit more of like, how am I playing Pictionary with this cartoon? Like, what is this supposed to be telling me and showing me so I can communicate it with the client? But I said the specific cartoon character, and that had meaning for her. So most of the time, you're just kind of playing a game of, what does that mean? What are you showing me? And spirit will often show us the same things over and over again. Once we figured out what the symbol means, it's developing our psychic dictionary. But if you get an image in your mind's eye, or maybe it plays out in front of you like mine do, if you don't understand what they're showing you, you can ask them, like, what does this mean? Show it to me a different way. When I first started doing this work, like all the time, I would say, I don't understand why you're showing me the pair of dice. Like, you're rolling dice. Like, I don't understand what you're trying to show me. Show it to me a different way. And then they would actually switch out the image and show it to me a different way. So then I could kind of connect the dots of, what does a pair of dice and this new image have to do with each other? And so they really try, your guides, your angels, to use imagery that you will understand based on your own life experiences. So your psychic dictionary is going to be different than mine. That's different from the person listening right now. So we just honor, what our own psychic dictionary is and how spirit wants to work with it.
And I think people who visit and get psychic services don't understand that always, and think that, well, you must not be legit, or you must not be valid, because they think we always have, and sometimes we might, but these deep conversations when we connect. And that's just not the case. And so, I want people watching this to understand that it's not like Dalissa and I talking. It could be sometimes, but it might not be, depending on who's connecting and what spirit or angel or person on the other side is talking to you. So it's kind of, you have to work with your guide. It's sort of like, I'm seeing this, does it mean anything to you? Or I'm hearing this, or does this color, and you need to work with the person when you're doing a service, because it has to be a partnership, because then we know we're on the right track. We're like, oh, okay, I get it now. This does make sense for you. And I think too many people think, well, I'm not going to say anything and try to prove that, see if you can read me.
It drives me absolutely crazy. I don't get as many these days, but I did when I first started a decade ago, of people trying to test me or have some secret password, or if you don't say the certain thing, it's not real. And I'm the interpreter in between you and spirit that you're trying to communicate with. And sometimes my interpretation skills are like really amazing because all the frequencies are like dancing the right way that day. But sometimes I have to sit there and look for a little bit and see like, okay, what is this? Like I have to almost search a little bit more for what the meaning is that spirit is trying to bring through. And it really depends, I think, on the client and the client's energy and the practitioner's energy. So sometimes the client comes to the session and maybe they're really tired or they're just completely worn out, frazzled, burnt out. Maybe they're just like running on fumes and they're coming to you for, hope and give me some insight. I've noticed that sometimes because if it's the triad, the client, the practitioner, and the person they're connecting with on the other side, if any one of those three are feeling worn out or tired or heavy for some reason, it can be harder to hold the frequency on the other side because you're kind of working with the balance and the average energy of the three. So as the practitioner, I take it really seriously of like, no alcohol before a session. I don't really drink, it's like, what am I eating before I go into a session? Because even eating a heavy meal can weigh the energy down and make it harder to connect. So I like to go into each session really feeling like I've done everything I can do to get this energy as high as I possibly can. But I am not in control of who shows up on the other side and what they're going to have to say and what they're going to say and how that impacts the client, because that might not be the person they wanted to talk to or the message they wanted to receive. So you're kind of always having to balance plates, as you're doing mediumship. But it's fascinating. But a lot of people don't know because they don't do it for a living and they don't know that that's the inner mechanics of it. They see more of the experience when they come into the session. But even when you see it on TV, like a Long Island Medium or a Tyler Henry, they usually shoot. I have not been on either one of those sets, but I have been on several reality TV show episodes and sets. They film so much to then get it down to like a 5 to 8 minute segment. So what you're seeing is everything spliced together. I'm not saying they're not real or accurate, but the storyline is much tighter and they get to the point a lot faster. But it may have taken them a lot longer to actually get that information to come through. But on TV, it makes it feel like you sit down and they scribble on the piece of paper and everything's done, But it usually takes a good 45 minutes to an hour to really feel like you have the connection, you have a message that came through. Mediumship is not something that's generally done in a quick sense.
Yeah, and your point too, you never know what's going to come through or who's going to come through because they have the free will to come through or not. It's not like we have a magic wand and we can say, oh, so and so, talk to me today. It doesn't work that way. And the people who like test you and who try to test you. I don't do that kind of work anymore. I did before I started doing this full time. I now, focus my intuitive messages on helping people find their soul purpose. But I would get frustrated when people would say, oh, but I only have a half hour. And I'm like, I don't know if I can get to what you need to do in a half hour. That's like pull 3 tarot cards and we're done, right? I mean, it's you have to invest some of your own time if you really want the answers you're going to be given. And that goes both ways. And it's like, even if you want to start beginning to develop your gifts, you have to invest time. I started developing my gifts 6 years ago. Like well, I had them my whole life. I knew I was using them, but I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I mean, I knew I was using them. But I really started focusing on what they were about 6 years ago. And those first couple of years was so frustrating because it took so much energy out of me. I mean, I was just kind of like, I would practice, and I had some of your videos and others, and I would do some of these practice sessions, and I would come out of it going, oh my God, I need to take a nap. I'm exhausted. Because it just took so much out of me. So that if anyone starting out or interested in starting out, it's not an overnight thing. It's not like poof, you start today and tomorrow you're going to get all of these messages. You need to take the time. You need to spend time in understanding yourself, understanding what you're trying to do. And then one of the most important lessons that I've learned along the way is you can't put your own bias into the messages that you're getting. You have to literally be, like you said, the conduit and tell it exactly as it's being shown to you, no matter how crazy it may sound. Like, I remember I did one session with a woman, and I'm like, we were talking about her son, and I said, are you aware you're going to be a grandmother? I had to tell her because I was told, tell her she's going to be a grandmother. And he wasn't married, and he did have a girlfriend, and she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, you can leave it, but I just needed to let you know that that was the message I was here to tell you. Yes, eventually she was a grandmother later that year. She found out, but I couldn't, even though she didn't want to hear it, I was being told she needed to hear it. And that's probably some of the hardest things, is when you get a message and it might not be what they wanted to hear, but you have to say it anyway. That's really
Yeah,
hard.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's why I like doing the longer sessions. And you were speaking about that a moment ago. I have a really short one that's 20 minutes, and it's usually like one question, like a little, we talk for a little bit and it's over. It feels like a blink of an eye. Um, but people sometimes just need like the one question, and that's it. So my favorites outside of doing like past life sessions, I have a 2-hour deep dive is what I call it. And I love that session because we can get through so much in 2 hours, and you walk away with like a 30-day blueprint via email of like, here's everything that we talked about. Here's what spirit is saying for like next steps. But why I bring this up is because one of my favorite things about it is to ask them questions too, which may sound like, wait, I'm hiring you as a psychic medium and you're asking me questions? Because to your point, when I am on Zoom with a client, spirit will say, ask them this, ask them this, and they will feed me questions to ask the person. And what I've noticed in honoring that is that when I ask the questions and they're thinking about it and then they're answering it, you can start to see like the light bulbs going off inside of them. So I've learned that if I can lead them to these deeper aha moments within themselves, that the impact lasts so much longer than just trying to like get enough breath to channel enough information to like say it all. I like it when it's like this living, breathing conversation that we get to have with me, you, and spirit. And with us open minded and open hearted about it, we really can pull through really incredible insight that I think is there for more of the profound, lasting change. And so I get excited about those.
Yeah, those they take more time and maybe in the end more energy, but those results, that's what we want for our clients. We want results. We want them to walk away getting answers and feeling better. And like you said, having a plan. I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, so and so is giving you a message, or yes, someone is okay on the other side, but those are great, and I kind of sometimes think they're fun, but the whole idea is to connect with the messages you need so that you can move yourself forward, because we're all on this journey. We're all here to live our purpose, and to connect with spirit to get those messages. It's not a text. It's not a text message from spirit. It isn't. And I think in this immediate response world, people kind of think that they're going to get the same thing. But I've learned, and I hope others listening, realize that the more you invest of your time, the more you're going to get out of it and really have an experience that can change you.
Yeah, absolutely. And myself, and I know other practitioners do it too, where like you can work with us more often. And I found those to be really helpful. Like if I'm going to meet with a client every week or every other week, for example, we get to look at life like, each week or live a couple of weeks and see what happens out in the world, see what happens in your relationships, have important conversations. Then let's regroup, let's talk about it, because as you're having these conversations with people and making choices in your day-to-day life, you are shifting the energy. And so as you shift it and you're making these different choices, okay, well, now let's look at it based on where you're at now. Like, what's the pathway forward that gives you the most alignment with your purpose, for example. And so I think if we treat it as this living, breathing experience, and that we have these incredible practitioners that we can work with that can help us, I think, the better we are for it. And I'm always learning from my clients, Spirit will say something like, oh yeah, ask them this. And I'll say it out loud. And I'm like, that's really good. So I'm learning right alongside of them. And as kind of a peek behind the scenes of what it's like to be a practitioner, usually Spirit brings you the people that you can help because you have been through something that at least has a similar theme as what your clients are going through. So for me, I had a long journey around self-worth and learning that I was valuable and worthy and having confidence and learning that it was all within me and all of that stuff. So without fail, most of my clients that come to me have something going on in their life where they have not really believed that they are worthy of having the thing, or they're starting to wake up to their worth and they're realizing that the people and situations around them don't align with the new level of worth that they have for themselves. So they're going through a major transition.
And I tend to attract people in what I call career crisis or career moments, because I've been in that world for 40 years and in HR in that world. So, if you are talking about, what it's like to leave corporate and how you balance all of that, and that was my world. And now I look at it from a different perspective, but I get so many clients with that because I think that is what I know. That's what I've always known. I also get other things because in a past life, I was a single woman with means. I'm not sure how I got those means yet, though. So I also tend to attract women who've never married and who,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, women who've never married and are like at the point of their life trying to accept the fact that it's okay to be by yourself.
Wow.
Or women and women who are like, I think I'll ever have children because I've never had children. And so I attract those people because I've been there, I've lived it. So yeah, we do attract who we've experienced before. And that also kind of brings me like to two things you said, but this one is, not everybody is for everybody. And so if you had an experience and it didn't go well, find somebody else, because you don't always connect energetically, because it is all about the energy and you don't always connect energetically. I sometimes tell people, I do an intake call, and if I don't feel like the energy is there, I say, I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you. Maybe you need to find somebody else, because you just can't do we can't do what we do for anyone that comes off the street. You find that as well? I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really important to do your homework, because the practitioner that you choose to work with, or your therapist, whoever you're going to be working with, they're going to be doing the work through their own filters and life experiences. And so I think you doing an intake call is a perfect example of that, where you get to see if it's an energetic match, which saves you and the client a lot of, misalignment or headaches. And so I'd say do your homework. If it's somebody listening to this, it's like, oh, maybe I'm thinking about working with so and so or Jacqueline or Dalissa or whatever. It's like you can go on the website of the person and take a few minutes, take several minutes, sit with it, read it, look at the pictures. Like, what are you feeling from it? It's not going to be 100% that it's going to completely translate over into how a session experience would be with that person. But I think most people, you can get a clue on their website if you just kind of sit with it. Or sit with the photo of the person you're thinking about working with. You'll feel it intuitively. But you might want to start off with something that's a little bit shorter of a session, or maybe take a class instead of doing a session at first, and see if you like their teaching style. See if you resonate with what they're talking about. Because if you like their class, or if you like the digital product that they put together and sold, you might really like a one-on-one session. So I know that a lot of people, for both of us, I'm assuming, they find us on social media because we're putting out content, we're out there a lot, and so they're consuming the content. And I've heard from a lot of people over the years, like, I've been following you for years on Instagram, whatever the story is, right? And then they finally one day decided that they were going to take a class or book a session. And so it's okay if you need time to consume a little bit more content or take one of those classes, and you'll feel that nudge when it's time and when you feel ready to jump into a one-on-one session.
That's taking classes, I think is probably the best. Watching videos are great, but if you can take a class, then you're hearing the cadence of the speech. You also kind of get to know the other people that are with this practitioner and can kind of get the vibe of their community. That's really important too. It's like, do you vibe with their community as well? That's super important. And then I want to swing back to one other thing before we do a moment here. You were talking about how the choices we make changes the energy. And that gets me to the whole prediction paradigm. I've stopped making predictions, and I know you have basically too. But it's like, yeah, predictions are great, but they are of the moment. And things can happen, and it's not like it was wrong because at the time it was what was right, but it may not stand the test of time because of so many other things that may have happened. So what's your kind of like track about people who look to readers for predictions and like words of caution?
Yeah, I made predictions for many, many years. I still on occasion will make world predictions. I think my clients these days are more about like wanting to uncover the root of things and really solving problems so that they can move forward. But predictions, I think, are kind of always a little bit of an underlying thing with me just because I can hear them and see them so clearly. But you're right. And I love that you asked the question, because what I was finding is people were coming to me regularly just wanting predictions. Like, just tell me what's going to happen, especially when it's a time of war or there's issues potentially with a food supply or fertilizer, like, are we going to be okay? And so people would panic and they would send me emails, or they would go on social media or in sessions and they would say, please tell me, like, is everything going to be okay? And I would much rather teach you how to fish rather than hand you the fish. So what I mean by that is I would rather teach you how to tune into your intuition so that you can get a sense if something's around the corner that you should be mindful of, rather than you becoming dependent on me or anyone else to tell you what exactly is going to happen. Because what that does is it actually takes away your power, and you place your power into someone else, and you're asking permission from someone else. And it puts you into a spiral of fear and panic. And we can only be in fear or in faith at any given moment. We can't be in both. And I just found that anything that was too prediction heavy or prediction focused would bring people more into the state of panic and fear, and they would feel disempowered. And so I've gotten more clear, I think, in the last 6 months about really vocalizing, I would rather you learn how to adjust your frequency and get those insights rather than feel like anything disastrous could happen at any moment and you wouldn't know because a psychic or an astrologer didn't tell you. It's like, it's going to be okay. Part of the experience on this very advanced earth school is to learn and to grow and to evolve. And we frankly can't learn the lessons our soul signed up for if everything is completely laid out in front of us as like the truth of all things. And we just follow that like little robots and everything is fine. It's like, that's not what this is about. But you can strengthen your intuition so that you can feel when something's a bit off. Because if you can get the sense that something's a bit off, you could lean into that a little bit further. You could ask spirit, okay, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy. What is this about? Show me more. Maybe you get a little bit more information in that moment. Maybe you go to your meeting at your child's school and somebody says something and you go, that's what I was getting. I'm starting to connect the dots here. So let it breathe, let it flow. Practice your meditations and your journaling, paper, audio, and be open to co-creating the story with the universe and try to get out of the mindset of having to know everything, because that's the energy of control. Control is a very tight energy. And I found that a lot of blessings and abundance and manifestations can't really like move through the energy of control because it's so tight. So if you can get more in the frequency of faith and that everything is working out for you, and you ride that wave with the universe and you trust your intuition, you will feel so much better, so much lighter, so much more empowered than relying on the prediction piece.
Amen. And we may not be able to control what's happening, but we can always control our reaction to it. And that's what we should be focusing on, is how we consume, how we react, and remain true to ourselves, and trust that it unfolds the way it's supposed to. It may not be the way we want it to. It may not be in the time we want it to, but it's the way it was supposed to. It's hard for some people, and sometimes it's even hard for me. I have to admit, I'm a Virgo Taurus. I want to make things happen. I'm a doer. But I have had to learn to sit back and say, okay, I've done my part. I've done what I can do. Now I need to give it up and let the universe take it from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's kind of transition before we kind of close this up. We've been talking forever. To a channel. And I know that you said you would channel a message for the collective. We'll find out if the message is, who it's for or what it's for. This is going to air around July 16th. So just keep that in mind, everybody, based on what we hear from Spirit. So go ahead, Dalissa. I'll give you the floor.
It feels like what's going to be coming through is a message for the people listening to this episode. It feels like it's really geared towards this specific audience. So let's see what they want to say. So I'm just going to get quiet here for a moment and take a few breaths. And the people listening, you can either keep your eyes open or closed, whatever you feel most comfortable with. In Spirit, I ask that the information that comes forward is in the highest and best interest of everyone receiving it, and that they are able to take the high frequency from it and apply it to their own life in whatever way feels most helpful for them. The first thing that I'm being shown as I go into this channeling is the throat chakra. And they're showing me many people in different parts of the world with their throat chakra activated, but in an interesting way. Spirit is saying that we will be called in a big way in this latter part of 2026 to activate our own voices in a way that are much more direct, powerful. It goes back to what we have been talking about in the episode today about taking our own power back, not giving away power to other people. There will be a rise in voices. There are many people that are listening to this episode that will feel that nudge within them to say things that they have never said out loud before. It will be conversations that they will have with the people directly around them, in their families, in their friendships, at work. And there will be other people in this audience that will use their voice and their throat chakra to bring messages to larger groups of people, some within their own countries. Some will travel farther into other countries around the world, bringing messages. Some of the messages will be filled with anger, the rising of the people telling governments that they no longer are going to stay and listen and do what the government is saying. There will be everyday people rising up with their voices, loud voices. We will see many stories of protests and people trying to go against and overturn leaders that are in office, elected or otherwise. This is not just one country. This will be in several pockets around the world. But do not be afraid. If you feel like you are getting smaller energetically, if you feel like hiding away or playing small, sit up nice and tall and allow your throat chakra to be activated. You can see a light spinning in your throat, awakening it. You can practice it in small moments in each day, sharing your voice, speaking an opinion out loud, saying something to a loved one that you haven't ever said, that has been on your mind and your heart. You can hum, you can chant, you can sing, but there will be a rise in the collective voices that will be for the betterment of humans. You may find in the latter part of 2026 that you are feeling more connected to the people, to the plants, to the animals, to the flowers, to the crystals, to the oceans, the mountains, the rivers, the forests. You will feel more connected to all that is. And the throat chakras will be connecting through people, sharing messages, getting louder, and there will be new ways for humans to be communicating with each other that is on the horizon. There will be more news coming out about the use of chakras and energy and telepathy as a mode of communicating with people around the world. You are here at a very special and very specific time in history. You are reactivating old wisdom, reactivating wisdom that has been a part of societies like Atlantis. And with that, it will require brave people who will stand up against darkness, stand up against unethical behavior. And so if you start to feel that call inside of yourself, speak aloud what it is that your heart wants to say. Use your throat chakra. All right. I always feel like slightly strange, like coming out of it, because like I've like stepped away and then come back and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a camera on me.
That was really, really beautiful. The throat chakra. And that really aligns with what I wanted to close our moment with everybody with, and that's sort of a invocation to Archangel Haniel, and her halo is the color of the throat chakra. So very, very synchronicities. What can you say? Before we close, is there anything you want to let the audience know that you're doing? Any offers you want to make them aware of?
Yeah. So July, August, early September, we are still in the summer speaker series, which is completely free. And there's incredible speakers. I would love everybody to come over and take advantage of that. You just have to claim your free ticket. That's over on my website, where you can also find everything else. And that's at spiritandspark.com, all spelled out.
And we will have the website, any links to that posted when this video posts. I myself, I have a Find Your Soul Purpose workshop at the end of this month, along with the launch of my new book, Living Your Soul's Purpose, which should be out right about when this podcast goes live. So take advantage of that. And these summits, I have to tell everybody, I go to as many as I can because I always learn something. You always learn something and you never know what's going to resonate with you. So sign up for as many as you can. Don't feel bad about it. It's actually, not everybody may resonate with you, but that one nugget you get may propel you forward.
Exactly.
All right. So we're going to close in gratitude. Archangel Haniel, thank everyone for being here. I thank Dalissa for joining me on this afternoon in June when we're recording this. I thank you all who are listening to this podcast. Archangel Haniel, you are divine feminine energy, intuition, and moon cycles. Help all of us tap into our intuition, learn to honor it, learn to recognize when your light blue halo is helping to guide us in a certain way so that we can trust ourselves. We all know what is right. We all know what we should be doing. Help us to lean into that knowing so that we can live our lives and our purpose in peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we will close, and peace, gratitude, and light to you all.